Hello everybody and welcome to your Awilix, a jungle guide. We're going to be starting off with our good old friend Eye of the Jungle, working our way into that early Jotun's Wrath for the CDR, a couple of health pods, our Hand of the Gods, and of course a blink. Awilix right now doesn't get played a ton. Not that she's bad, she just doesn't get played a ton. She is kind of more of a situational pick. I like to compare her to being the opposite of Odin, whereas Odin you want to pick against a lot of characters that have no leaps, right? No jumps. You want to be going against gods with dashes and like movement speed enhances. And Awilix is the exact opposite. You want to be going against guys that have a lot of leaps, that don't rely on things like dashes, which also makes her a counter pick. So best case scenario, you are like third, fourth, fifth picking Awilix. Not early picking, because otherwise they'll just happen to know, hey, it's an Awilix, I'm gonna make sure I don't pick any jumps. So like for this enemy team, basically nobody that I can pull outright over there except for the Fafnir, and for the most part probably not gonna want to pull the Fafnir. But in general, you want to make her just a slightly later pick, just like you would for an Odin. Now, where Awilix does thrive is she has a lot of damage output and a decent amount of CC. A lot of her kit comes down to paying attention to your teammates, especially those that have knockups. So like paying attention when I'm around the Sobek, making sure that I'm looking out for his tail whip, for his pluck, stuff like that, as well as also timing the feather step well. Feather step, one of the cooler and more fun abilities in the game when you really start to get good at it. The most important thing about feather step that you need to know is that it is a immunity frame. So generally you're going to auto attack twice for the big circle, then you're going to click 2. It's going to do big massive AoE damage, and while you are actually in that animation, the actual flipping animation, you are invulnerable. So if you're about to get krakened and you do that, no damage. You're about to get Thanacide, no Thanacide, no nothing. You are completely invulnerable in that little feather step animation. And that's what's gonna separate a regular Awilix player from a fantastic Awilix player, is using it not only for the damage, but as the counter invulnerable. It's the exact same thing as a Raven 2 Chang'e, same concept. Just a lot like shorter in duration.
Your right tower is under attack.
We want to get the CDR going as quick as possible, so we're going immediately into that Jotun's Wrath. Also, power in CDR is kind of the name of the game here on Awilix. For our leveling order, our feather step is our bread and butter. We're going to be making sure we go 4, 2, 3, 1 on Awilix. We rank up Awilix ultimate because her ultimate is actually sick. You get more damage, attack speed, power, it lowers the cooldown, basically everything you could possibly want. We'll talk a little bit about the ulti later, but in general, rank up the ultimate, then your feather step for all the damage, then your 3 for the damage, and finally you rank up the 1. The 1 is actually only going to give you damage on this ability, and most of the time when you are using the Cougar, you're actually not going to be jumping off it. So most of the time when you watch me use this, you're going to use it for the bonus movement speed in order to get to a lane, in order to get to more farm, and then you're going to right click in order to cancel off of it, because then you keep the cooldown up. So you get to utilize all the bonus movement speed without actually putting the ability on cooldown if you end up needing it as a getaway skill. So kind of the best of both worlds. Just keep in mind that it does take the mana when you jump onto it, not when you jump off of it. So it is going to take mana every time that you do this, so you don't want to be like hopping back on and off for rapid fire. But most of the time you're going to save that for a getaway skill, and you're going to be using your blink as initiation. So on Awilix, you want to be looking for a lot of early game pressure. She's definitely one of the better early game fighters. A lot of our good early game fight does revolve around that feather step and around the fact that she's got a good amount of CC. If you hit that knock up, you hit that moonlight charge from the side or from behind, it's gonna knock them right up. You get the knock up followed up into a feather step, which is basically a root slash cripple effect on the target that is actually under the feather step.
Missing right.
It can be really hard to get away from an Awilix. Not to mention, if they try to run away, then you slap them with the ultimate if they're trying to leap.
Enemy missing.
And you yoink them right back in, and you do that damage as well. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind on the Awilix ult, another thing that's a high-level gameplay, especially against teams like this, where there's probably not gonna be a bunch of opportunities to use my ultimate for the pull unless very specifically I have landed my 3 or Sobek is setting me up. Your ultimate is not just that pull knock-up effect. It also gives you a bunch of bonus power and attack speed. So it's a giant stim on top of the fact that it is the pull, and it makes you knock up immune. So there's a ton of value that can be utilized out of this ability, not to mention it also makes you immune to root and slow, so that's generally less important. So you get a massive stim, a massive buff off of this, and so don't be afraid just to use it for the actual stim effect. It doesn't have to be as a reactive ability. You can just use it proactive, especially if you're in some sort of 1v1 situation. Let's say I'm trying to duke it out with the Thanatos, and I just don't knock him up with my 3. He's running straight at me. There's no way to get behind him. Oftentimes, just popping that ultimate for the extra power and attack speed is enough to help you win that 1v1 fight.
I like it.
Grab a couple more words out. We're going to go right into the Transcendence. Super heavy into the power and cooldown on Awilix. Basically, the more often our ultimate and our feather step are up, the more often we are a problem for the enemy team. So we kind of hit on it on the start because it's kind of Awilix's main thing about the gods that she's good against. Obviously, she is going to be good against gods that have leaps because she, for the most part, forces them to not be able to use their leap when she is anywhere in the vicinity. Gonna go ahead and force the Morgana beads right there. Her beads cooldown is a lot longer than my ultimate cooldown. I'm also gonna run through the jungle, see if I can't find anything. Now, this doesn't mean that she is not good at all against guys that have like bonus movement speed abilities or dashes like a Mercury or something. It just means that that is not the preferable situation to be in as an Awilix. She's still a generically good character and has a lot going for her in her kit.
Glorious.
But you do lose some of the overarching threat of Awilix when she's standing right next to somebody and you're like, oh, I can't use my dash at all, or oh, if I want to dash I have to preemptively beat. Like, that's the worst feeling. Another thing for the newer players that they always need to know, Yes, dashes that go underground are still pullable by Awilix. So Hades, Scylla, Izanami, whatever. All that matters in Smite is that the description says leap. The aesthetic has nothing to do with whether or not the ability works. So specifically looking for abilities that say leap on them. If they say leap, then it works. Some abilities are really short leaps and are really hard to hit. Something like a Fenrir Brutalize is technically a leap, and you can technically ulti him out of it, but there's a very small window. Some, like, say, Fenrir 1, are a lot easier to hit. It's very clear he is up in the air, and you can just ulti him out of it. So different abilities will have different animations, different lengths that they're in the air, etc. For God pairings with Awilix, the big thing with Awilix is just providing her with more forms of knockup.
Enemy spotted.
I wouldn't go out of your way to pick more knockups for Awilix. Like, I wouldn't pick an off-meta God just to give her another knockup to work with. But if you can pick a really good God, Sobek is a great example. Sobek, one of the best supports in the game, also a great solo laner. If you can just go ahead and pick him, and now you've given Awilix the tail whip and the pluck to work with, well, you've just given her a lot of value, plus you've given yourself a really good character on your team, so it's kind of just a win-win-win. There's no bad situation there. You don't need to be picking like a Vulcan in the mid lane, and now your mid laner situation is suboptimal just to give an extra spicy meatball for your Awilix. It's not worth it in that regard. And if you're ever wondering, is Blank's character a leap? Is Blank's character whatever? All you need to do is literally go look at that God's ability. And if it says the word leap on ability, then it's a leap. So here's an example of when you can use the Awilix ultimate. If I pop the ultimate right now, I can just try to come over here and solo myself a little Pyromancer, give myself that bonus power and attack speed. All of a sudden, I've got it down to half HP already. So trying to burn an objective, great time to go ahead and use that Awilix ultimate for the stim instead of the pull. After our Transcendence, we are going to get Hydras. Hydras has a really good natural pairing with Awilix. If you go look at Awilix's passive, if Awilix has not taken damage or dealt damage in the last 5 seconds, she strikes an enemy first. She increases her physical power for a short duration. So being able to start off the fight on Awilix is really strong, which is why you oftentimes want to use that blink to get right up into business. You follow up with the blink 3. Then you get this 2.5 seconds of bonus power. You get a bunch of physical power increase. This is going to scale with that Hydra's action. And now all of a sudden you've got the world's thickest Hydra's procs.
Can't hide.
Enemy spotted.
So I'm gonna go right behind this Thanatos, do a little scythe over the hammer. Do a little, oh my god, I can't hit the Thanatos. Do a little feather step over the scythe and the hammer. They miss both of their key abilities. Bada bing, bada boom. We got ourselves a free little kill in tower. Now I'm gonna wait here for the Sobek. Kind of waiting for him to use abilities, because Sobek I'll be able to follow up on right there. And we get to go for the alley-oop. So that's the kind of situation where you're just gonna go ahead and wait for your Sobek. I know there's a great pluck opportunity or a tail whip opportunity, and I'll have a really, really easy ultimate follow-up, either forcing the Apollo beads, which is a win in itself, or grabbing the kill. Of course, make sure you buy those sentry wards and regular wards on every back. So as far as our standard combination goes, on Awilix, preferably starting off with the blink. You can leap in if you need to. Obviously, if your blink is down, you can't use blink, so you got to use your leap, but you would always prefer to keep it up for the getaway when possible. Trying to land yourself, whether it's the leap or the blink, to the side slash behind the character that you are going to be attacking. That way you can immediately follow up with your 3. Your 3 will then knock them up. After your 3, you then use a auto attack for that Hydra's proc. So blink, 3, auto. Then you follow up with that feather step and land another auto attack, and a squishy is probably gonna be dead. It's that easy. If you think you are going to need more damage, you're not gonna have enough potential within that exact combo, then you can use the extended combo, which is starting off with your blink in, 3 auto attack,
Enemy missing middle.
ulti, auto attack, so you'll get that little bit of extra CC and damage from the
Enemy missing
ulti,
right.
and then once again, feather step auto at the end. So you'll just go ahead and put the ultimate in between as a little bonus step for some bonus damage. I'm gonna blink right in on this Apollo. I am not going to use my ultimate right there because I feel like I can kind of just walk up and kill him, and I can.
Enemy missing right.
Now I need to get myself out of this situation. I do use a beads pretty aggressively right there, and now I need to get myself waddling right on out of here.
Enemy ultimate down.
Almost broke a sweat.
Need to be a little bit careful because Thanatos might actually be able to get a heartbeat on me if I'm not super careful. Grab ourselves the Hydra's proc. Now we're going to get ourselves a Serrated Edge. Serrated Edge, a highly undervalued item in the jungle outside of like the very top levels of play, where they recognize how good it is. You'll see a lot of junglers picking this up as their preferred percent pen item. Basically, it just gives you a whole lot of pen and a whole lot of power and a little bit of extra lifesteal and movement speed. So just a little pizzazz of extra stats on top of it, but you're really doing it for the power and penetration. And because you're in Awilix, you have low cooldowns, which a lot of times turns people off
Enemy missing.
of going the Serrated Edge. But honestly, you're gonna be spamming your abilities so much, it really doesn't matter whether or not they're low cooldown. You're still gonna get huge value out of the Serrated Edge bonus power, even if you have a lower CDR build. I actually don't think it's a great argument that lower CD screws up Serrated Edge. I think it just plays a little bit different. So just pretty much constantly looking for picks on Awilix, trying to run around, set up when we get an opportunity to do an objective like we've been doing the Pyromancers. We will obviously take those opportunities. Looks like Giannis probably ran back into our jungle. There's an Apollo over here, so I'm gonna blink towards him. Wait until I get that nice big circle, hit him with that feather step. He's at half HP. Ulti's away, bada bing, bada boom.
The Gold Fury.
We can probably go get the Gold Fury for free unless the Janice is actually still
missing.
behind them in the jungle watching, which would be awkward. In team fights, you have to play Awilix a little squirrely. She is not a 100% commit to the fight god.
Enemy missing right. Be careful middle.
And what I mean by that is you're going to go into the fight, you're going to use your combination, and then preferably you're going to hop on year 1 and you're just going to leap away. And you're just gonna wait for your CDR to come back up. You're gonna wait for somebody to try to leap off into the jungle and escape. You're gonna pull them back in. You're just not gonna, you're not gonna full dive like Thor ulti, blow your kit, now we're in it to win it type situation. you're gonna play it just a little bit more on the edges, not full committing until everybody's a little bit lower HP. As long as you have your blink up though, you can start off that fight in the team fight a little bit more aggressively. Gonna use my one just to get a little bit closer over here to the Morgana. Use my ultimate, forces him to use his beads, and now we can get ourselves out of dodge.
Enemy missing left.
Now to get ourselves a little serrated edge action.
To the rescue.
And another sentry ward. We've got all the CDR, we've got all the power, and we are going to be swinging real hard.
That's too bad.
Need to get ourselves a sentry ward out on the fire giant.
Searching for target.
An ally has returned.
Not gonna be able to get to the Annis over there, so I'm just gonna try to run over to my Woojer. Reminder that you have to basically W keep
Enemy missing.
on Awilix's mount. If you try to use the side keys, you're gonna go very slow. And so only be using your W key and moving your mouse around in order to actually utilize this. If you try to like do a little sidestep, you can see how slow we
Enemy
are.
missing right. Be
You want to be
careful.
W keying with your mouse and using your actual mouse to turn with this.
Don't get run over.
Enemy missing.
Now I can afford to go in for a little bit more aggressive plays because of how big we are, and also I've got the serrated edge online, which means I
Enemy
can
missing.
actually sustain up some of the damage that I'm going to be taking.
ultimate incoming.
I got your back.
No, we ain't that cool yet, Woojer. We ain't that cool yet. Looks like he just did a red buff, so I'm gonna walk right over towards him. I would imagine this is warded. I know for a fact that it's warded because they're looking right at me. Now we just get level 20. Eye of the Jungle is actually good on Awilix. I don't necessarily keep the starter items on every jungle god right now. Eye of the Jungle is kind of situational, but because Awilix has so much like bonus power percent potential, I like to keep the Eye of the Jungle on her because when she's getting all of her procs
Enemy
going and
missing.
stuff, and then you get that bonus percent power when you're actually within the jungle, that can stack up really, really well on Awilix and lead to some thick 1,000 damage like Hydra proc situations.
Enemies incoming.
Looks like there's a Morgana coming over. I'm just gonna kind of chillax right here. Oh. We're gonna have to be a little bit careful because they do have their team coming over here. Throw down a little ward so I can see them coming this way. And you can see I'm not like going crazy hard into this fight. Just kind of sitting on the edges. They know that I'm here. They know they have to kind of be careful around it. Kind of looking at the Fafnir in case he goes for a leap in on one of us right now, and I can yoink him before he actually does so.
On my way.
But I don't have to get too crazy greedy off of any of this.
No bother.
Gonna do a little pick off onto Thanatos. Blink 3, he gets knocked up. I don't even have to follow up with the ultimate because I'm not gonna need that damage. Fafnir tries to jump away, so we can actually follow that up with a quick ulti to pull him back in. But now I've got to be careful with the Yanis because I got hit by the Yanis ult because I always do. Apollo's about to land on me, so I got to jump away from that ASAP. Try to go for a little side swipe on some of these abilities.
Not evade me.
So right there, I knew the Apollo was coming for me because I was keeping my eye on the mini-map. Presumably, once he was in range, he was going to try to immediately land on me because my HP was so low, so I went for the immediate jump right when I thought I was just about in range of the Apollo ult.
How exciting.
Attack fire giant.
Grabbed us a sentry ward for the fire giant,
Fun.
just in case they have one on it. And all they can have come steal this is a Thanatos, but Thanatos doesn't even have his beads up, so maybe he can come into the backline. He did do a little aggressive play right here. He's gonna die for that, and we're still gonna get the fire giant. I'm gonna go ahead and pop my ultimate, just so we can have a faster bird on this. We're gonna have 4 of us up regardless. We're not gonna be able to wait around for the Uller, so it doesn't really matter. And then I need to actually back out of here immediately because they have a couple of global ultimates. Sticking around gets a bit risky.
Playing it safe.
So here at the end, in order to provide myself with a little bit more safety, I am going to go into the Mantle of Discord. You can get greedier here and go more damage. You could go something like a Blood Forge, because chances are you're going to one-shot a squishy and then try to snowball in a fight.
Yes.
You could get Managized if you feel like the CC is just generically too hard for you. I'm just a big fan of Mantle of Discord as a whole, as just a last item. In assassin builds that have to go in that melee range, it just always works so well in terms of peel. So it is one of my go-to last items, but there really are a plethora of items that you could go here on Awilix. Most of those, if you're gonna go something more damage oriented, are gonna be a big, fat power items. Fafnir knows he has to be careful, because if he jumps, he's gonna die, but he knows if he doesn't jump, he's gonna die. So he is in a very hard predicament right there. Gonna quickly go for the Apollo when we're just not quite gonna be able to kill him, but that's fine. Thanatos is over right. Apollo had to ulti away. We already got one dead. We go immediately in on this. That's a really good pluck. I'm gonna wait for him to turn around. I'm gonna use my Feather Step to avoid that fear so I don't have to beat it or anything. Gonna actually use my jump to get in on this fight, but I'm gonna wait to use on Apollo, use my Feather Step to get behind him, and then use my 3 in this case. So that way I am behind him for the actual knock up effect. Gonna pop my ultimate here just for the bonus damage onto this Phoenix, so we can burn it on down, and we can get ourselves moved in toward the Titan room, although we actually probably have to just go ahead and do middle lane because they've got Oni is pushing down. So we're not quite going to be able to end it, but we do get the farthest Phoenix away from the fire giant, which is always a big W. If we would have actually had the Onis pushing down there, there's a good chance we get to go potentially there for the W.
Right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Now here at the very end of the game, if you do continue to gather gold, when you get to this point, Jotun's Wrath is basically always an item that you can sell in the ultra late stage of the game and basically just get yourself an Erendite instead. The Jotun's Wrath with the early cooldown that it provides you is just such a valuable item in the jungle. Plus, you start with that tier 1 mace, which helps you with the early level 1 clear. But at the very end of the game, exchanging out Jotun's Wrath for the Erendite for a little bit more power and to uncap yourself basically, or un-overcap yourself on CDR is basically always a wise decision.
Fantastic.
It just depends on how long the game is going to go. Jotun's is just too good of an early game item. It has too much value that it provides you to not go it in the early stages of the game. But in the ultra late game, because everything in Smite gives cooldown nowadays, you just generically don't really Need to keep it. Gonna go once again and ulti that Fafnir. He's gonna find himself in kind of an awkward spot. If he goes for the ultimate, we just wait to knock him up until afterwards. He's not gonna go for it, which means we can grab that quick kill. And I'm actually gonna call for attack middle lane. We don't have the Fire Giant anymore, but we have a 5-on-3 power play.
Searching for targets.
So we should be able to make this work and at least grab ourselves a Phoenix. That was a really good blink Uller axe right there. I'm just focusing on the Phoenix. We got to be a little bit careful for the Yannisol. It's actually Thanatos that's the one that's going to be ulting for all of this. Yannisol down, that's all down, and we just go right over towards the Fire Giant.
Ready to roll out.
Now a lot of their globals are down as well, so we know that we're not gonna have to deal with it. And we can get ourselves a nice enhanced Fire Giant. Back it up, get our last set of items, shove down that right lane. Going to get rid of my Jotuns because I can at this point, because I can afford the full Erendite. Don't sell the Jotuns until you can, in fact, afford the entirety of the Erendite. You don't want to sell it for like a partial item. That would not be a good exchange.
Your right tower is under attack.
Now that we've backed up, really finished the build, gotten the enhanced Fire Giant, a little red pot.
Your team has destroyed a right
We have got
enemy
power
tower.
on power on power. Now we just shove out this right lane. We should be able to push it down and grab ourselves a Titan. Obviously preferable for us
Yes.
if we could be fighting in the jungle, because of our starter item. But you know, it's hard to fight in the jungle when you're trying to assault a Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the reasons why I oftentimes sell the Eye of the Jungle for the ultra late game.
Can't hide.
Because if you are going to be fighting Phoenix Lions, it doesn't really help you to have an item that gives you bonus damage in the jungle. But on Awilix, I do think she actually is a pretty good exception to the rule because of just how much that power. If she does catch somebody out in the jungle, they ain't living very long. That's the 1-2 punch right there. That's a beat down on Morgana. That's a Yannisol. That's a Thanatos. Ooh, baby. They are using a lot on us right now. They are not getting a whole lot of value out of it. Looking towards Morgana. Gonna hit him with the ultimate. I know his beads are down because I saw him use them just a moment ago. Phoenix is on me, so I need to back out of that range. A little feathers up on our boy. And now we should be able to go ahead and attack the Titan. We got creeps pouring in the room, so we should be able to mostly just W key right on at this. So on Awilix, abuse the fact that your Feather Step is one of the better abilities in Smite. Make sure you are using that invulnerability stream. And you have to be going aggressive in the early game as well. Make sure you're going for those early ganks, those early fights, and never be afraid to use your ultimate, particularly in games where the enemy doesn't have a lot of leaps or you don't have a lot of knockups on your team to synergize well. Don't be afraid to use that ultimate as a stim for the extra power and attack speed and the root immunity and the knockup immunity and all that good stuff, guys. And that is your Awilix, a jungle guide. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a twitching day, y'all.